Hi everyone, Miss Ella here from Learn to Grow. I hope you guys are having a great day. Today I want to talk to you about how to harvest your worm castings, and also want to clarify some things about the recent worm bin video that I uploaded just a few days ago. So first of all, I think I had mentioned something about feeding the worms on one side of the bin. So you can do that, and they do eat and poop on the same side of the bin, and you want to keep the other side of the bin just with some bedding, but don't put food in that side. The reason why is because when it's time for harvesting, around 3 to 5 months, is you want to slowly have the worms migrate to the opposite side of the bin where they're not used to eating the food. And what you're going to do is you're going to eventually stop feeding on the side that they've been feeding on the past 3 to 5 months and start putting food in the opposite side of the bin. And that way we'll get the worms to migrate on that side, and eventually in about 2 to 3 weeks the castings on the previous side where they were will be ready to be harvested, and most of the worms are going to be on the other side of the bin. So I'm going to show you my bin to see how it looks like. And also I just want to let you know about a blog, and it is called Earthworm Technologies. They are very helpful, and they did recommend to go ahead and drill holes on the side of the bin, which I haven't done that yet on my bins that I have made. So I told you I think I just leave it ajar. But it's a good idea to drill extra holes around the side of the bin. That way there's more air can get in there, or more air can get into the bin to help to help the worms breathe and keep them healthy and happy. So anyways, I'll leave the link of Earthworm Technologies. They are on Twitter, Facebook, and they have a blog as well as Google+. They're very helpful, lots of information, so go ahead and check them out. So there's 2 parts of this video I recorded earlier on how to harvest the castings, doing it by the mounds, and the other method is the one where I feed on one side of the bin at a time. So I'll be showing those 2 methods, and my favorite one obviously is harvesting on the opposite side of the bin. So it's much easier, it's not as time consuming as doing it by mounds. So but you can pick out whatever works for you, that it's up to you. And it might be a fun project to do with your kids, so get them more involved with your worms and harvesting and learning about compost. The way to tell when your worm castings are ready to be harvested is it's going to be this dark, rich color, kind of like color of soil or coffee grounds, or consistency as coffee grounds. So it's not too wet and not too dry. And a lot of these are going to be pieces of decomposted food scraps, the fruit and vegetable scraps, as well as the bedding. So these are pretty much ready to be harvested. So nice and rich color, and again, great consistency. So generally when I'm feeding one side, as I harvest all these castings in this side, I will not have that many worms unless there's still some food in there. But most of this, as you can see, when I scoop up the casting here, there's barely any worms on the side of the bin, just because they migrate towards the food on the other side. So here's my current worm bin, and I just harvested some worm castings on this side here. So I'm going to let this side dry out, and in about a week I'm going to put new bedding in there, and I'm not going to put any more food in this side because this side's also pretty much ready to be harvested as well. So there's lots of castings, see all that dark stuff. Anyway, there's more in the bottom here. I don't want to disturb the worms again. But so in about a week I'm going to put new bedding and put food on this side, and then I'm going to wait another 2 to 3 weeks until the worms have migrated to this side towards the food. And they do eat and poop on the same side, so that's why you want to get them out of that side. That way you don't leave an unfavorable environment for them. So too much worm poop and eating this, the same area where they eat, it's just not going to be healthy for them. So this is my favorite way to harvest them, and you do have to plan it ahead, at least 3 weeks ahead of time before you harvest the castings. But it works so much better just because you can harvest more castings in the bigger amounts instead of the smaller mounds where I think it's time consuming. So this way of harvesting your worm casting is we're making little mounds. And what I'm doing is just kind of shaping up these little mounds into slightly cone shape. And what happens is the worms will eventually migrate to the bottom of the mound away from the light. So I don't think you want to do this around in the sunlight because it's too hot. So just the, just the regular house light will be okay. So what happens is give it at least 2 to 3 minutes, and then you start taking off the top of the castings as the worms migrate towards the bottom. I'm going to show you this mound here, so I'm going to go ahead and take off the top here, and I'm going to carefully check for worms. And let's see, maybe there's one little baby one right there. And this will be the casting that I'll be harvesting. If I don't see any worms in there or I pick them out, then I'm going to put this aside. So again, wait at least 2 to 3 minutes in between before you harvest the top of the castings. So when you get to the bottom or close to the bottom of your mound, as you can see, all the worms have migrated towards the bottom of that. And as soon as you collect all your castings, and you might end up finding some worms in the pile of castings, so I would just pick out those worms and put them back in your worm bin. This is the last mound I'm working on. I want to zoom in and show you all the worms that have migrated towards the bottom of the mound. So I'm going to zoom in, pick this up real quick, and there you go. So see all the worms there? So I'm going to go ahead and put them back in the worm bin. Here is my 10-gallon bin where I keep all the worm castings that I've been harvesting. So this is my third harvest, and this bin feels like it weighs at least 12, maybe 14 pounds now. It's about a third full, and it is a 10-gallon bin. And again, I'm leaving it here to cure or letting it air dry, so I'm not going to put the lid on this container for at least 2 weeks. That way I can preserve them for my spring garden. And you don't want your castings to be too moist. You want it just the texture of maybe just freshly brewed coffee grounds, so not too wet, just a little moist. If it's too sludgy, then you might run into a problem of fungus growing, mold, and such. So this is a great texture for worm castings. So I'm excited to use this in my garden in spring, and I'll be making some compost tea from it as well. I hope that you guys found this video helpful. If you have any questions, comments, suggestions for me, please leave them in the comment section below. And again, thank you so much for watching. My name is Miss Ella, and I hope that you guys have a wonderful day. Happy gardening!
Squish the earwig.
Is this another earwig?
No, there.
Oh.
It crawled in that pile of dirt.
Okay, yeah, this is the worm poo and